Hey everyone, to the video. Going over my cheat sheet for the late main slate for tomorrow on DraftKings. Anyway, before we continue, if you could leave a like, subscribe to the channel, I really appreciate that. You can also follow me on Twitter at ChrisPinell16. And if you want access to this cheat sheet, my model, projections, my Slack chat, all that good stuff, I go over it every video. I'm sure you watched the early slate video, so I'm not just going to do it again. The link is in the description below, and you can pick whatever you want on Patreon. We have over 70 members, and if you want to join, I would love to have you. So, anyway, let's get into the cheat sheet. I am very tired, so hopefully we can get through this. I feel like I was going to fall asleep making this sheet, but powered through it. It's so SP1 for me, I will say I am seeing three different things from three different sites on who's going to pitch this second game for the Nationals. RG says Fetty and Gray are pitching the second game, and then Fangraphs says Corbin is pitching the late game, and then DraftKings says it's Corbin, and CBS says it's Fetty. So that's interesting, but I'm pretty sure it's Corbin. So let's pretend he is. And at 10,900, the Rockies are just really bad versus lefties on the road, so that makes Corbin my favorite spend up on the slate in this matchup. Corbin did have a pretty good game in Coors Field versus them. And really, I just think he's going to be able to have his way with his lineup. He's got a high K rate, and that Rockies lineup, the bottom half of the lineup, strikes out a ton versus lefties. So I do think this is a pretty safe spot, and they should be able to get him the run support to win this game, especially with Kyle Freeland on the mound, I think, on this game. So I do think the Nets going to put up some runs, and he's got a 30-point ceiling here, maybe even more. And then Reynaldo Lopez, 7K. Now, I hate paying this much for Lopez as much as the next guy. But outside of Lyles and Gallen, who I both have interest in them, I will say that they're in pretty good spots. Gallen versus the White Sox, who strike out a ton versus righties, and Lyles, a righty versus St. Louis. I think they're both pretty interesting. But outside of them, there's no other cheap pitchers I like. And Lopez just came out of the gate swinging after the All-Star break with, 27 points and 26 points back-to-back games. So maybe keep that going versus the Marlins. And then Noah Syndergaard, 10K. He's turned out the past two games, scoring 25 and 30 points, and he does another soft matchup versus the Padres. The two matchups were against the Marlins and the Giants, so obviously that's not saying too much. But a matchup versus the Padres is good as well, because they're better suited to face left-handed pitching, and they do strike out quite a bit versus righties, so I don't mind Syndergaard either. And then at catcher, we got Mitch Garver, 5,100. Twins are one of the best teams in the league versus lefties this season, and that starts with Garver, as he is mashing lefties this season with a 446 ISO versus them, and I believe his WOBA is above 500, so he's killing lefties. Then Suzuki or Gomes, whoever's going to be in the lineup, I have no idea who's going to be in the lineup as of now, but both great plays versus Freeland, who's just awful versus righties. I'm hoping it's Gomes so he can save some salary, though. And then Brian McCann, 3,800. He should be in the lineup versus the righty Keller, and McCann has been good versus righties, and Keller is a below average low strikeout pitcher, so he makes a lot of sense. And Vegas really likes the Braves tomorrow as well. Then Freddie Freeman, he's got elite numbers versus righties this season, and really just his whole career. And the Braves are getting a lot of Vegas love, like I just said. And then Josh Bell at 4,700. Wainwright has been much more hittable from lefties, and Bell is crushing righties this season, so it makes quite a bit of sense. The Neil Walker, for running down, I know I said I had interest in Lopez, but Walker's the only guy who really went off here, unless Curtis Granderson is leading off. And he should be the cleanup dude. He should have cleanup duties, and Lopez struggles with lefties. Then at second base, we got Adam Frazier at 3,600. He's leading off as a lefty versus Wainwright, and I actually do have him as a core play. I do like this spot. I got no other problems playing these other two second basemen, but I do like Frazier's spot quite a bit. And then Robinson Cano, 3,100. He went triple dong today, 3 homers. I don't know how much DraftKings points he's got, but I imagine it's probably 50. Not 50 maybe, but close to it. So, yeah, if you had Cano, congratulations on that. I know I didn't, but that's never going to happen again. But I do prefer lefties versus Lamet, so I don't mind Cano at that cheap price point. Then Brian Dozier, 3,900, and that's get the tee off versus Freeland, who's just been awful versus righties this season. I should say that. I don't know why I said that. Although he hasn't been good versus righties either, lefties either, so. Juan Soto and Adam Eaton are interesting as well. That's my Slack chat. Oops. Okay. All right, third base, Anthony Rendon at 5,400, one of the best hitters in the league versus lefties, and we have Freeland on the mound, so Anthony Rendon makes a ton of sense if you can afford him. He's obviously the key part of the Nats stack and my favorite play on the Nats. It's just the price. Neil Walker, we already talked about. Miguel Sano at 4,500. Love the Twins righties here, but losing Cron hurts this offense as a whole. But Sano still has power upside, but that comes with a lot of strikeouts as well. At shortstop, we got Trey Turner, 5,100. He just went for the cycle, and as you can see, I was tired. I cannot spell. And I hope that's how you spell believe. I just went for the cycle, and I believe, and I won't. And while I don't expect that to happen again, I do like stacking the Nats. Although I will say he's been worse versus lefties this season. But I mean, it's Kyle Freeland, so I mean, I would imagine he could be able to have a good game versus them. Gets on base, gets some stolen bases. So I don't want to trade Turner, and he's got power upside too. And then Didi at 3,900. Wasn't much else at shortstop I like today, but Didi facing a righty is always interesting, and I do expect this game to be pretty high scoring. So, and I know the Twins-Yankees games, the past two games have been very high scoring, so I would expect that trend to continue. Then Freddie Galvis 3,400, just cheap lefty versus Bieber, who struggles with lefties, and he should be batting second. If he's batting seventh, I would have no interest really. Then in the high-end outfield, we got Nelson Cruz 4,900. He's my top play of the entire slate, facing off versus Happ, who's getting hit hard by lefties. Man, I am all over the place. Getting hit hard by righties, and we all know how good Cruz is versus lefties in his career and this year. And I believe his ISO is above 330 this season versus them. So Nelson Cruz is my top play of the entire slate. And Mike Trout 5,900. Stripling's actually given up a little bit more power to righties, so he's been reverse splits, and Trout is a reverse splits batter. I mean, he's great versus lefties too, but Trout's the best in the league at hitting righties, so he makes quite a bit of sense if you can afford him. And Cody Bellinger for the 800. Barria is actually worse versus righties, so he's a reverse splits pitcher, but I'm going to side with how much better Yelly is versus righties. And then in the mid-range outfield, Jock Peterson, what I said above, although he'll be leading off. Then Victor Robles at 4,400. Never loved playing him, but facing a lefty, and he does have good speed, and he had quite a good stretch of games recently, so I wouldn't mind using him if he's in the lineup. Then Aaron Hicks at 4,300, cheaper part of the Yank stack, who I can see carrying interest tomorrow. The stack, I should say, and I would expect him to have ownership if he gets a pretty good spot in the order. And then in the value outfield, we got Corey Dickerson at 4K, just a lefty versus Wainwright. Dexter Fowler, 3,600, lefty versus Lyles, who's much worse versus lefties. And then Michael Conforto, 4K. There really wasn't much else here, but I do like Conforto's power upside versus righties. And then the core plays for me are going to be Corbin or Syndergaard. I'm paying up for one of those two. Just not totally sure who it's going to be yet, but they are my two favorite spin-off options. I'm not going to be able to spend up for both, so one of them will be fine. And then I got Frazier at second base. He's cheap, and I do like him leading off versus Wainwright. And then Nelson Cruz 4,900. He's my top home run call of the entire slate, and just my favorite play. Then the top stacks for me are going to be the Nats, the Twins, the Pittsburgh Lefties, the Braves, and the Dodgers. Alright guys, that's all I got for the video. Remember to leave a like, subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate that. If you want all the goodies on Patreon, hit the link in the description below. And I will see you guys probably Wednesday morning.